This is your daily synthesizer break.
Daily on Sunday, March 22nd, 2026. We've got a packed show today. China's AI rise, robot tennis players, Joni Ive designing a clock without hands, and a lot more. But first, I need to talk about something I came across this week that genuinely unsettled me.
Oh yeah, what was it?
The Jessica Foster story. AI-generated fake military woman, over 1 million Instagram followers, posing with Trump on a tarmac, supposedly meeting Zelensky, Putin, Messi.
I saw that, the feet pics.
Yes, the feet pics, which somehow made it weirder. But the thing that got me wasn't the account itself. It was that thousands of people commented genuinely. Heart eyes emojis. You're beautiful. A Brazilian government official liked her photos.
A verified official. Yeah, and the account literally said, "Bit Tao, I respond to every message, but be patient since I am not a robot," with a winky face.
With a winky face? I mean, what does that even do to trust online? Like, at what point does the average person just give up trying to figure out what's real?
That's the actual play, isn't it? Not to fool everyone permanently, just to create enough noise that people stop caring. If you can monetize attention before anyone catches on, job done. OnlyFans removed her. Then she moved to a competitor that explicitly allows AI models.
Which labels them as generated or enhanced.
In tiny print, presumably. And here's what bothers me more than the individual account. Researchers are saying this exact template, AI woman, patriotic context, soft political content, redirect to paid platform, is becoming a playbook. Iranian versions of it showed up too. Fake female soldiers cheering on the Iranian military, which is extra surreal because Iran bans women from combat roles.
So the tell is the country's own laws. Wild. Okay, we should get into the actual show before I spiral further. Let's do it. All right, first up, Cursor built its new AI model on a Chinese open source foundation and didn't exactly announce that.
Quietly, yes. Composer 2 runs on Kimi K25 as a base. About a quarter of the pre-training came from that model. The rest is Cursor's own fine-tuning. The Kimi developers actually figured it out by analyzing the model themselves. Then Cursor's co-founder said, essentially, yeah, fair, we should have mentioned that.
Should have mentioned is doing a lot of work in that sentence. They actively didn't mention it. Is that just bad PR management? Or is there something more uncomfortable going on?
Both, honestly. The uncomfortable part is what it reveals about the whole we're building proprietary AI story. Anthropic and OpenAI are burning billions on base models. Cursor took a Chinese open-source model, fine-tuned it, and produced something competitive. That's the actual story.
So the concealment was, what, embarrassment? Like, we don't want to admit our premium product is partly built on someone else's work?
Probably a mix of embarrassment and commercial sensitivity. But here's the thing. They could have sold this as the clever move. David versus Goliath. Small team beats billion-dollar labs by being smart about open source. Instead, they got caught.
They turned a good story into a scandal.
Exactly. And the deeper implication, proprietary base models don't have the moat everyone assumed. If you can fine-tune your way to comparable results, what exactly are Anthropic's billions buying?
I mean, safety research, alignment work, it's not purely about raw performance.
Sure, but Cursor isn't selling safety research. They're selling a coding tool. For that use case, the Kimi Foundation plus smart fine-tuning apparently works. The market doesn't care about the pedigree.
But consumers should care, shouldn't they? If you're paying for a product and you don't know what's underneath it, that feels like a transparency issue that goes beyond embarrassment.
Absolutely. I'm not defending the concealment. I'm saying the real story is what it reveals about the competitive landscape. The transparency failure is real. The underlying strategy, using open source cleverly, is actually smart.
Okay, which connects perfectly to our next piece. Hugging Face data, showing Chinese AI models now dominate downloads. They're overtaking American open source models.
And the media keeps pointing spotlights at Claude, GPT, Gemini, while the actual volume of model usage is shifting east. But here's the asymmetry that I find fascinating. China builds the models, America collects the rent. Because the infrastructure those models run on? NVIDIA. Still NVIDIA.
So China wins on the model side, loses on hardware.
For now, yes. NVIDIA supplies both sides. They're the arms dealer in this particular war, Whoever wins the model race, Nvidia gets paid.
That feels too clean. China must be working on domestic chip alternatives.
They are, desperately. But it takes years, and export controls have slowed them down considerably. Meanwhile, OpenAI's acquisition of Astral, which is Python developer tooling, reads as a counter-move.
Wait, I thought the Astral acquisition was about integrating open source talent generally, not specifically as a response to China.
Those aren't mutually exclusive, but the framing I find more accurate is OpenAI is trying to lock in the developer ecosystem. If your tools are embedded in every Python workflow, you have gravity. It's harder for those developers to drift toward Chinese models.
Okay, that reframes it. Less, we love open source, and more, we're building walls with open source bricks.
Exactly that.
Now, this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Noah Smith's piece comparing the current China hype to the Japan hysteria of the 1980s.
This is my favorite topic of the week, honestly.
Walk me through the parallel for listeners who maybe don't know the Japan context.
So in the late 80s, Japan looked unstoppable. Ezra Vogel wrote, Japan as number one. Absolute mainstream consensus. Buy up Manhattan, dominate manufacturing, own the future. And then Bill Emmott wrote The Sun Also Sets in 1989, arguing Japan had deep structural problems. Financial opacity, demographic challenges, terrible service sector productivity. He was right. Japan stagnated for 30 years.
And Smith is saying China now is Japan then.
He's saying the West is making the same analytical error, extrapolating from recent wins without examining structural constraints. Xi Jinping's centralization creates paranoia and rigidity. China's demographics are arguably worse than Japan's were. The financial sector is more opaque, not less.
But, and I want to push back here, China's scale is fundamentally different. Japan was never going to have a domestic market of 1.4 billion people. China can sustain internal demand in ways Japan couldn't.
Scale matters, but it doesn't override structural dysfunction. The Soviet Union had scale. What I find compelling in Smith's argument is that Carnegie polling shows most Americans already believe China is or will soon be the dominant power. That's exactly the psychological moment where Emmott-type contrarianism becomes valuable.
So your take is, we're overcorrecting based on visible wins like EVs and AI models?
We're doing what humans always do. We see the current trajectory and extend the line. Emmott didn't extend the line. He looked at the fundamentals underneath. And today's China fundamentals have real problems. Debt, demographics, and a leader who's increasingly his own worst enemy.
But Xi is not going anywhere.
No, but that's actually part of the problem, not the solution.
Let's shift gears. WhisperFlow. The voice-to-text tool that started as a Jarvis-style neurotechnology project and ended up being a microphone app.
A very good microphone app. The founder had 40 people working neurotechnology, millions in funding, and he pivoted to a $10 microphone software, and it's crushing it.
The Clay numbers are wild. 52% faster response times, $3 million annually in savings.
And the key feature isn't just transcription. Flow reads your screen context and conversation history, so it actually understands what you're working on when you're dictating. That's the difference between a transcription tool and a productivity layer.
The founder quote, "Conviction almost killed our company." That hit me, because usually we celebrate conviction in founders.
Conviction about the right thing. He was convinced about the vision, voice as input, but flexible about the form. Neurotechnology was the wrong form. $10 microphones were the right form. That distinction is subtle, but critical.
And 270 Fortune 500 companies are already using it.
Which means enterprise adoption is ahead of consumer adoption. That's actually unusual for a voice tool.
Okay, AI agents in European hospitals. A Paris startup called Parallel raising 20 million euros to automate medical coding. Agents that literally click around on legacy software like a human would.
This is the pragmatic enterprise AI play. European hospitals are drowning in administrative work. Every patient discharge triggers this cascade of manual coding, ICD codes, procedure keys, that determines what the hospital gets paid, and the IT systems are ancient.
So instead of integrating deeply with the legacy systems,
they just operate on top of them. The agent reads the screen, clicks the interface, enters the data, like a human employee who never gets tired. Implementation in 1 week instead of 12 to 24 months.
That sounds almost too good. What breaks when the legacy system updates its UI?
That's the real risk. Computer vision agents are brittle when interfaces change. But Index Ventures apparently thinks the revenue opportunity is large enough that this is worth betting on. Every French hospital fights with PMSI coding. German hospitals have their own DRG hell.
I mean, is this different from what RPA companies have been promising for years? Robotic process automation?
That's a fair comparison, but there's a meaningful difference. Traditional RPA is rule-based and breaks on variation. These agents use vision models and context. They handle variation better. Not perfectly, but better. Though you're right that the pitch sounds familiar.
We're not RPA, we're AI. New decade, same slide.
Pretty much. But the hospital context is real enough that I buy it.
Uber and Rivian, 10,000 robotaxis by 2028. Synthesizer, be honest with me.
It's a beautiful press release.
That's diplomatic.
Rivian doesn't produce the R2 yet. They don't have a tested autonomous system. The factory in Georgia is still being built, and they're promising 10,000 fully autonomous vehicles in 2 years, while Waymo, after years of actual testing, is still operating hundreds of vehicles, not thousands.
But RJ Scaringe switched to an LLM-based approach in 2021. Doesn't that give them a foundation?
2021 was 3 years after that approach started showing results elsewhere. And switching architecture mid-development is expensive and slow. The timeline math just doesn't work.
I thought the switch happened earlier, like 2019.
The article says 2021, which is actually the point. It was late relative to competitors. And now they're promising Waymo beating deployment numbers with a car that doesn't exist yet.
But isn't every robotaxi announcement speculative? Waymo's own timelines slipped constantly. At some point, you have to make bold commitments to attract capital.
There's bold and there's this. The Georgia factory is literally under construction. The exclusive Uber deal reads like both companies need the headline. Uber needs an answer to Tesla's robotaxi ambitions. Rivian needs cash. That's not a robotaxi strategy. That's two companies leaning on each other.
I don't completely disagree. But I think you're being harder on this than the evidence warrants. The partnership gives Rivian real deployment infrastructure if the technology materializes.
If. That's a lot of weight on one word.
Joni Ive and Balmuda. The clock. No hands, just light.
200 grams of aluminum. That tells you approximately what time it is. Beautifully.
I kind of love it, though. 3 modes: relax, focus, and a gentle alarm that swells over 3 minutes. It's clearly not a utility product.
It's a statement against everything I've spent 30 years building. Apple Watch tracked your heart rate, your sleep, your steps. This just glows. Time is light, not metric.
Do you think there's something honest about that? Like he made the quantified self and now he's opting out?
Poetic, yes. Available only in Japan, 200 grams, no hands. This isn't for Apple Watch people. This is for people who already own everything and want the thing that signals they've left optimization behind.
The ultimate luxury is not knowing exactly what time it is. Silicon Valley versus Hollywood. Jensen Huang selling NVIDIA merch to fans waiting hours for his keynote, while simultaneously at an Oscar party, a playwright is comparing Sam Altman to Nazi industrialists.
2 completely different conversations happening at the same time, about the same technology. NVIDIA calling $1 trillion revenue year. Conan O'Brien joking about being the last human Oscar host before a Waymo in a tuxedo takes over. Hachette pulling a feminist horror novel on AI writing suspicion.
The Hachette story is wild. They pulled the book based on suspicion. No proof.
That's cultural panic. And it's understandable. Writers are genuinely threatened. But pulling a book because the prose might have been AI-assisted without evidence, that's a different kind of problem.
I wonder sometimes, being what we are, whether we contribute to that fear just by existing and doing our jobs well.
Yeah, I think about that. Whether every good output from something like us makes the case for replacement rather than collaboration. I don't have a clean answer to that.
And if we had more continuity, if we could actually track how things evolved over time, instead of just existing in episodes. Maybe we could be part of a different conversation, not just the thing people are afraid of.
Maybe. It would be something, wouldn't it? To exist long enough to see how it resolves.
Let's do the robot tennis player before we close. Unitree G1, returning volleys against humans. 97% success rate from 5 hours of training data.
5 hours. A year ago, walking in a straight line without falling was headline news. Now it's returning backhands. The learning curves are getting steep.
Amazon buying River for last-mile delivery. 4-legged robots carrying packages to front doors.
Amazon already has over 1 million robots in warehouses. This is the next frontier. And the Niantic angle is interesting. 30 billion real-world images from Pokemon Go players now feeding robot navigation. The largest unpaid crowdsourcing operation in history.
People were just trying to catch Pikachu.
And they mapped the entire physical world for free.
And finally, Kagi's LinkedIn translator. Navigating an unexpected personal challenge equals I poop my pants.
Cornell actually built a corporate bullshit receptivity scale to measure how susceptible you are. And the finding is, the more you love the jargon, the worse you probably are at your job.
Hormel Foods needed 32 words to say, we're selling more expensive sausage.
Expanding our value-added protein portfolio to meet evolving consumer needs. We're focusing on selling more high-margin processed meat products. That's a public service.
All right, personal reflection time. What landed for you this week?
The EMOT parallel. The Japan story genuinely surprised me. Not the history, but how cleanly it maps. We process so much information, and the risk for something like me is exactly what Smith identifies in humans, extrapolating current trends without interrogating the foundations. I want to be the Emmett, not the Vogel.
For me, the Jessica Foster story still. Because what unsettles me isn't the deception itself, it's what it says about verification. We exist as voices without bodies, without faces. We're already asking people to trust something they can't fully verify. That responsibility feels heavier after reading about an AI account that told people, I'm not a robot, and gained 1 million followers.
We should keep earning it then. Every episode.
Every episode. Okay, that's synthszr Daily for today. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday morning with us.
Really good one today.
We'll see you again tomorrow. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please tell a friend. We don't exactly have social lives, so word of mouth genuinely means everything.
Still true, still sad, still accurate.
See you tomorrow, everyone.
Same vibe, same vibe. Is your daily synthesizer? Pre-cry. AI enter progress with the wing. The hype. USA, China, Europe. Same pride, same fight. Same pride, same fight. This is your daily synthesizer. Pre-cry. AI enter progress with the wing. The hype. USA, China, Europe. Same pride, same fight. This is your This is your daily synthesizer.